Recently, someone posted a question on one of my YouTube videos asking if doing commissions at conventions is a must, and that she struggles with confidence. And we had a brief back and forth, but I wanted to address it a little bit, or actually in a lot more detail. Yeah, I think doing commissions is really important at conventions. Some people draw really slow and they know they can't pull it off, I guess. But there's ways to work around that. That shouldn't be something to stop you. Doing commissions, some people want original artwork. They want something that is tailored just for them. Um, so if you don't do commissions, you're missing out on that. And then also, I personally, it's a time to show off. I like showing people that I can draw live. And if they want to watch, that's cool. But I like drawing live. And I think that's something that people, when they walk by, they see you drawing, they're going to stop and look, maybe talk, and they're going to also see what else you have for sale while you're drawing. So I think there's a lot of benefits to doing commissions, and I mean technically it's not a must, but I think it's a huge plus. That's my recommendation. So as far as the confidence thing, I felt the same way before my first convention. I knew that I was very anxious about the convention in particular, but specifically about drawing in front of people. That was very anxiety producing. So I can totally validate anyone who feels that way. But that can't stop you. So what I did was, before my first convention, I prepped and practiced well ahead of time. I used to do these things called lunchtime requests, where I was at work, my full-time job, and during my 30-minute lunch, I would take requests from people. And I would pick the request that had the most votes, or that really kind of inspired me the most. And some days I'd pick the one that was the most challenging. And I would spend my 30-minute lunch just drawing as fast as I can and seeing if I could pull off a penciled and inked sketch. And once I had that down, I started doing two. And then once I had that down, I started doing three sketches. And they were like head sketches. And then once I had that down, I started doing full body with an interesting pose, two people fighting or whatever, action sequence. So I kept building on it and seeing what I could cram into half an hour. And then I started doing panel work. That was only a couple of days, but I started asking people what they would want to see, panel wise. But anyhow, so you need to prep. You can't just walk in if you're anxious about it. Prepare, practice, well ahead of time. I did that for months, and it was actually a really good way to interact with my followers too. Plus, it really built my skill and my style as well. Not just the skill of drawing fast for the convention, but stylistically, I feel like I grew a tremendous amount. So that's an activity that I recommend, and we'll continue to push through these videos. I'm sure you'll hear, is to draw for 30 minutes at a time, as fast as you can. And yeah, so before conventions, get going on that. Every day, draw for half an hour. Take requests if you want to, make it fun. And get you out of your comfort zone. I could draw Spider-Man over and over again, or Venom, and I do. But doing those requests, people will give you an idea that you would never have thought about, or a character that you would never touch usually. And that's what's going to happen at conventions, is they're going to ask for things that you don't know off the top of your head and that you maybe haven't drawn before. So giving yourself lots of practice with lots of different characters is a really, really good idea. That should boost your confidence. The other thing I can say about that is drawing in front of people can be nerve-wracking until you start drawing in front of people. Just do it. What I did was I asked a friend of mine, somebody I worked with, I said, hey, if I'll take you to lunch if you sit and watch me draw. And we were good friends. He's like, yeah, no problem. He knew I had my first convention coming up. He was happy to help out. And we hung out, had lunch, talked, and I drew. I think it was it was like 2 or 3 Batman themed sketches. Yeah, it was Batman the Animated Series. That was like the theme for the day that I was asking people for. And I did, and it went fine. It was not really that awkward. It was the first time I'd really drawn and asked, like, someone, sit there and watch, which is weird. But it went great. It was kind of weird at first, but you adjust to it. People don't stand there and watch to criticize you. They stand there and watch because you're drawing something interesting, or the way you draw is interesting. So that's a good thing. Like, that's a positive, and you just have to get used to people watching you. Now, realistically, at conventions, people don't really stand there and watch. Every now and then, and maybe if you're a big name in the industry, in which case you're probably not listening to this anyways. But if you're a big name, you're probably used to it, and people will stand there. I would love to stand there and watch Edwin Huang or Joe Madeira or Humberto Ramos. I would stand there and watch all day. But I idolize those people. So realistically, if you're doing your first convention and struggling with this, you're probably not at that level. You might be someone that's worth people standing there and watching, but usually I think at small to medium conventions, people aren't really doing that. Really what they do is they'll pay you and ask when to come back. I tell them I'll have it done within half an hour. That's my goal. But if you give me more time, I'll put more love into it. That's exactly what I say. Is the more time I have, the more love I can put into it. And usually they'll say, okay, I'll be here all day. I'll come back in a couple hours. And then what I'll say is, yeah, it's cool. That'll work. When I'm done with it, I'll post it to Instagram, and right away that gets me a new follower. I'll post it to Instagram. You can come on over and grab it. I don't really give out my phone number or text people when things are done. I don't like that. So I post it to Instagram or Facebook or whatever they want, to follow me on to see when it's done. So so they're not really standing there watching. They're paying you for your work, and they come back and you get to reveal, and hopefully they like it. That's the most nerve-wracking part for me is their reaction and whether or not they like it or not. Realistically, like when you draw at a convention, it's probably not going to look as good as if you were drawing from the comfort of your home for a number of reasons. So that's why I would recommend whatever you charge at conventions should be less than what you would charge at home. You're drawing faster with probably less materials. I do full color, but like at home I would include like colored pencil and do more lighting and shading and whatnot. But at conventions I do pretty basic marker, a couple layers of shading if I have the time for it, and but I charge less. It's not going to be as good as because at home I can refine and refine and refine, but at conventions you have to just go. You have to do it. So I would recommend charging less. So let me go back to working fast. There was one convention I was at. I think it was East Bay Comic Con, and there was a guy next to me, and there's these tables of every now and then you'll have a table where they draw nothing but like female characters with ridiculously large breasts. And that's like their whole table, and it's creepy and unsettling in my opinion. But this guy, I felt so sorry for the person who paid him. Someone paid him to do a pencil sketch of Harley Quinn, and he did it in his disgusting, super pervy style. And he did it only in pencil, and it took him like hours, at least 3 hours. So while he's over there giving this person in my opinion, a pretty crummy product for what she paid, I busted out like 3 or 4 commissions in full color because I had trained myself to be fast. And when that person came to pick up their commission from the pervy guy, the girl that bought it, her boyfriend like pointed out what I was doing, and I could see the disappointment on her face. Like, speed is a huge asset. If you can do speed and quality at the same time, it's a huge asset, and I think people will see that. I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but yeah, I really felt sorry for the person who paid for that shitty pencil sketch. Anyhow, also with boosting your confidence, going back to that, sorry I'm bouncing around here. Draw in front of a friend. You can also draw over a live stream, like over Instagram Live or YouTube live stream. That might be more nerve-wracking than drawing in front of one friend, but you can tell people like, I'm practicing my speed. It might look like crap, but here I go, and just have at it. That's a really great way to kind of just trial by fire kind of thing, and get your confidence level up, or at least your anxiety down, right? Yeah. So when you do get the commission, like I said, tell people to come back if they want. I tell them you're more than welcome to stay, but if you want to leave and come back, the more time I have, the more love I can put into it. And people are fine with that. There's not really much pressure, honestly. The only time that people really stop and watch me is if they're walking by and they just like to watch artists, they might stop. But besides that, like people that are commissioning me I don't think they rarely, maybe once or twice do they actually stare and watch the whole time, you know. All right, next, your pricing will be different. Like I said, I would really encourage you to know your pricing structure ahead of time. Don't wing it. Know what it costs people to have one character, what the full body is versus a bust versus a head versus a torso drawing. If you're going to have all those options, know if you're going to charge them color versus black and white. Know ahead of time. Have it clearly posted. I think it's lame to nickel and dime people, and from the feedback I was getting from people at conventions is they don't like that. It's really annoying to be charged extra for color. I can see why we would do that as artists. I just think it's cheap. Like, just draw, and like you're paying me this X amount, and this is what you're gonna get. I like that. I think it's more. I think the consumer, the person, the client, the customer will appreciate that. I know they do. So everything I do is full color unless they request otherwise. Everything I do is either a bust or a full body. A bust is the shoulders and part of the chest area up to the top of the head. And I'll usually throw in like a little background splash of color or something, or maybe a word bubble. And that's a bust commission for me, and I charge $30. And I charge that outside of conventions now too, but I tell people if you're going to get convention quality, I'll put 30 to 2 hours. 30 minutes to 2 hours into it. If you want more love than that, I would give them a different price, but that's kind of my standard in and out of conventions, honestly. If it was a digital piece, I'd put a lot more time into it. That costs more outside of conventions. And then I do full body, full color. Same thing with a prop or a background element or a word bubble, and that's $50. If some people might ask, like, well, what can I get for 40? I would say, okay, well, you can do a torso and up, basically crotch to top of the head, I guess. But yeah, know your pricing structure well ahead of time. Don't make it up on the spot, and also know what your limit is as far as what you're willing to draw. When people ask, it doesn't come up very often, but I don't draw portraits. I will not draw you or your kids. I don't want to offend anybody, and it's not fun for me. So I tell them that I don't do portraits. I don't draw pets. I can't stand that. It's annoying. And I will not draw, what else is it? Yeah, portraits and pets. Yeah, I think that's it. So I won't accept those commissions. And I know as artists, we might want to accept everything and just for the money, basically. And I can't knock you on that, but personally, I don't take those at all. So know your pricing structure ahead of time. Know what you will and won't take on. That way, those issues are dealt with, at least mentally, before you even start your table. Have that prepped, all right? So those are my recommendations for doing commissions at conventions. Yes, do commissions. Boost your confidence by drawing in front of people. Work fast every day, 30-minute exercise. If people want to watch, let them, or say, come back, give me more time. Nothing wrong with that. Know your pricing and know what you will and won't take on. Oh, and the last thing also, this is a huge thing, honestly. If you can have a friend or a buddy or somebody there with you, kind of like a table buddy. I was really lucky enough to have my brother-in-law, who was not into comics at all. I just asked him, like, do you want to do conventions with me, dude? Like, we'll just basically hang out all day, and I need you to help me sell. And he's like, yeah. And he didn't charge me anything like that. I paid for lunch and breakfast, and I bought him energy drinks, of course. But he didn't. He just wanted to go along and be a part of it. And then I was lucky enough to have a couple other people that were willing to do that also. But if you can find someone to have with you, that will free up your time and your attention to do commissions as they come in. And as you're doing commissions, you of course want to be polite to people. Look up, say hello. Don't rely on your booth buddy to do everything. But if you can have someone join you, it is a huge asset, just in general for the whole experience. It's huge, but specifically for commissions, it frees you up. So I would really recommend that you ask someone that you can trust with money, and that is fun to be around for 8 hours a day for 2 hours, for 2 days each. Sorry, it's fun to be around for 8 hours a day for 2 days for like a whole weekend. That's my last tip. Let me know if you have any questions. I want to make more YouTube content, but I don't know what you guys want. Like, ask a question, and if I can answer it, I will. I'm happy to. And also like and subscribe. Hopefully I've earned that from you. Until the next time, thanks.